Today's guest has been an art instructor at such prestigious institutions as the Ringling School of Art and Design, the California College of Art, and the Academy of Art University. He's given art lectures and workshops from LA to New York and from Germany to the Czech Republic. His clients include TED Talks, American Airlines, Nike, Google, Rolling Stone magazine, and the Wall Street Journal, just to name a few. Please welcome to Inside Arthead, the artist, Shawn Barber. Greetings, everyone, and thanks for joining the Inside Arthead podcast. It's here we'll explore the inspiration, motivation, process, and fulfillment of creating art. I'm your host, Roni Zulu, bringing you inspirational stories from artists around the world. Shawn, thanks for being on the show.
Yo!
I haven't seen
Thanks
you.
for having me.
I haven't seen you in a while. Now,
In a minute, yeah.
our viewers and listeners are anxious to get inside your art head.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is going
We
to be
can do it. I'm
Yeah.
not scared.
awesome. Well, the first thing I want to share with the listeners and viewers is a little bit of our history. I met you many years ago in the LA art scene, and
Yep.
saying that, that's a very broad stroke between artists, painters, tattooers, performers, all of that. I think we've ran into each other on more than one occasion in different arenas. And to the viewers and listeners, this man was one of the first to help me start painting. When I wasn't sure how to do it, he would come to my house and give me some pointers in my little bitty studios and tell me, Zulu, yeah, you might kind of be able to do this. so
Yeah, you're doing fine.
so
You're
it
doing great.
it's very exciting for me personally to have you on the show, Shawn.
I'm excited to be on it.
So
We were neighbors.
yeah,
We didn't even know it. We were neighbors.
how about that? Yeah, we lived
Yep.
very close to each other, and it's kind of a bummer that we live so far. But hey, you guys are witnessing us catching up right now. So
There you go.
let's talk about the multi sides of you. You're a tattoo artist and an oil painter. Which came first?
Yep. Oh man, I mean, I've been drawing my whole life, and I started painting like on a regular basis in about 95, 96, 97. Really fell in love with oil painting. Um, I was a tattooed person since I've been, I think, 16. I got my first tattoo, but I didn't really know much about the community, the history of tattooing. But I like them as markings on the body, and not until I was about 35 I started tattooing.
Oh, okay.
I was an art teacher, taught at some art schools. I've worked all different kinds of jobs in my life, but always an artist.
Now,
I see myself as a painter.
a painter, right on.
Yeah,
I definitely see you as a painter for sure.
I'm
Uh,
I'm a productive painter.
yes, you are. You're always painting, and I'm always trying to figure out how can I paint as much as Shawn Barber paints. It seems like you put out a painting every other day. You're quite the prolific artist. I mean, you spend a lot of time in that studio painting, don't you?
Uh, I go back and forth now between the house and work, but I'm mostly working now at home. Um, it's a safe space where I can work on things and nobody sees what I'm doing, and I have a dedicated room for it. It's good.
Yeah, I like it. It's the same way with me. It's like I just do my thing and release it when I'm ready. Um,
Yep, yep.
Now, you're an oil painter.
I
Why
am.
oils over acrylics, watercolor, and all that? How did it end up being oil painting?
I've used most 2D wet media. I love watercolors. Acrylics are fun at times, but for me, oil painting is it's got a it's got a lot going for it. It's got a life to it where it's a moving medium, almost like clay, where you're moving colored pigment over a mostly two-dimensional surface, and it's not static. Like it's it's got an energy to it. It's got a movement to it. It's got life to it. You can manipulate it significantly for a while, depending on how little or how much you use, and depending on what kind of mediums you use. Like it's alchemy, it's chemistry, it's all those things.
Yeah, man. But with that, let's talk about a little bit about your style. For
Okay.
those who may not have seen your style, I would say I find it very, they're portraiture, but there's this little bit of surrealism. And I want to talk about the surrealistic side to it, the double
Sure.
imagery. Uh, More often than not, I've seen you'll paint someone and then all of a sudden you'll see a ghost of them right next to them or an arm repeated. Tell us about that surreal side. What's going on there?
I think the attraction to, like, I'm using a 2D art form. And
Mhm.
how do you show time, space, movement, all those things on a
Oh,
flat surface? It's for me, it's more about showing something that's not just because I'm primarily working from photographs that I take. How do I show something in the round, or show something that's a little bit more than just this static image from a single eye of a camera lens? Um, and showing different planes and showing different aspects of that person, whether it's their personality or what's on their body. It's all those things,
but
and to give it a mood. It gives it a mood.
it definitely does. I've been wondering that. I'm glad you answered that question. Um, Also, your style is it's really it's hard for me to describe sometimes. It's loose but very tight. You could stand next to one of your paintings and you can see a brushstroke, but if you take 3 steps back, it almost looks like a photograph, but not so
Hmm.
photographic that it's sterile. It still has that Shawn Barber
Right.
signature to it. Can you tell us about developing that kind of style? Because I know it's easy for someone to get a little tied up in the details if that's what they want, or some people paint
Sure.
completely loose. How did you get to find this awesome middle ground of that?
I think it's partially influence. I think it's also experimentation. Like, I've experimented with so many different styles of painting, and I'm merging them into different pictures depending on what the subject is. But it's an influence. It's like the amalgamation of all of my influences. I love realism. I love abstraction. I love loose dynamic paintings. I love very rendered things. Like, it's it's taking all of the things that I'm into and put them in a pot and mixing them up and making a picture reflecting the subject. Sometimes it's a little bit more realistic. Sometimes it's a little looser. Sometimes it's whatever's serving the subject for me. Like, I'm not interested in being somebody working out of a specific box, or
Hmm.
I know I have a style. We all have a style just through our hand doing what it does, but I don't want to be a one trick pony,
Yeah,
if that
and
makes sense.
I that does make sense, and I think a lot of young artists can tend to fall into the trap of, let's say, we were just talking about influences. Um,
Hmm.
can you speak on the dangers of copying versus being influenced? Because
I
it's
think
easy to.
copying's good in the beginning. I think copying's good in the beginning if you're copying from folks that are no longer around,
Yeah.
and artists who have had significant impact on a lot of different artists.
Hmm.
Like, that's a standard mode for people to learn.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's having a broad range of influences, and not just saying, "Well, I love this artist, so I want to make my work look just like that person." And you're defeating the purpose of finding out your own voice.
Let's talk about the tattooed people's, or no, the tattooed portrait series.
Okay,
This almost seems to be some sort of magnum opus in your world. This is
for
a
sure, for
big
sure.
body of work. It's
Oh yeah.
huge.
Hmm.
Can you, for those who haven't seen it, let them know what is the Tattooed Portraits series?
In 2005, 2005, I think, I started painting friends and myself using the figure and the tattooed figure to do something that I hadn't done yet. And I was looking at, this is 2003, 3, 4, 5. I was looking at some of my favorite artists at the time. I don't know if you know Jenny Saville, a British painter who paints flesh, paints the body, a really loose, um, large scale manner. Jerome Whitkin, who is a narrative painter who paints very heavy imagery, like taking those influences and trying to like make my own picture with that. And then I moved to San Francisco, um, getting tattooed more and more. I shared an art studio with a tattooist, our friend Henry Lewis. You
Hmm.
know, he really like kind of opened my eyes to a lot of um, what our community is. You know, and living in San Francisco, you know, it's been a mecca for contemporary tattooing for so long. Like just being there influenced the work, and then traveling around, going to tattoo conventions, and just becoming part of a community really opened my eyes to the the endless possibilities. You know, there's no end. There's it could, they could be anything at any time,
So you
and there's
were,
too many individuals to like make pictures about. You know, it's kind of wild.
yeah.
There literally is no end. There's no end, and that's exciting to stumble into something like that.
And I would imagine by what you said, that's what keeps you going because you have done so, your
Oh
body
yeah.
of work is amazing. And some people would think, this guy has literally done thousands of paintings. And what makes you go, man, there's still more in there? So I guess it's that
I love it.
endless
I don't know.
thing.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I keep a running log of paintings I've made since '97, and I think I have about 1,810 that I've made. Out of those 1,810, I think 480 are tattooed portraits.
Wow.
Um,
Would
you
you
know,
suggest other
I'm
artists to do the same, to keep a log like that? Does it help you?
yeah, it keeps me motivated. It keeps me on task. Every year, I kind of get an average of what I've done. It lets me know where things are, if I've sold things, traded things, gifted things. I kind of have a personal history of where my images are, whether, you know, and even things that I've destroyed myself. If I've painted over them or sanded over them, I at least have a record of what I've done. Um, it's good for me. An OCD person. I have, you know, like most people, the ADHD and all that, and it just keeps me focused.
Now, when you talked, I just heard you say about sanding over a piece or something. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask what, let's say you've been working on a piece. I know I've been there, and it just doesn't
Oh
want to
yeah.
do what you want it to do. What do you do
Oh
with
yeah.
it, and what lessons do you learn from it?
I think it's like paying attention to your instincts. Like a lot
Mm.
of the times you know it's already a dud before you start, but you still like, oh, I got to try this thing,
I'm only
and
laughing
you
because I've
try it.
been there.
Yeah, you try it, and sometimes you surprise yourself and you can pull something out of it, and other times it's just a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Um, I like falling down. I like playing. I like experimenting, and I know that they're not always going to be things that work out. You know, I share a lot of those online with people because I'm not afraid to show my faults. But
Hmm.
there's also things that I don't show to people because
Yeah.
they don't need to see them. Um, but I'm pretty transparent with everything.
You have come to be what I have seen is a bit of a tattoo historian now, just because you've sought out so much. Definitely in the American history of tattooing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It
Oh
seems
yeah.
like, do you have some passion to preserve this the memory of tattooing or getting it out there, or maybe not being a spokesman, but just making sure that this is seen as a
Sure.
viable art form? Is that part
Oh,
of
yeah,
your mission?
absolutely. How can it not be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is for sure. I mean, it was driven initially by kind of painting artists that were tattooed, and then once I learned the craft, it's like, oh, there's too much history in the world, in the present, things from the past, but I'm living in the moment, so most of what I'm painting is a reflection of the world around me. And I've made more paintings of people that I have a connection to than people of note, even though I've done lots of paintings of people that have influenced the masses in tattooing. But it is real personal to me. So it's more about making paintings of my friends and also a nod to the history of this art form for sure. It's all of it.
What do you get from since you have these two arts that are major? They're both intense. They're either one is something you don't. Well, you haven't just dabbled in. You've taken them to awesome extremes. What do you get from tattooing that you may not get from painting, and vice versa? If that even
Oh
is
man,
so.
tattooing it's its own animal. It's there's no art form like it. It's a moving media.
Mm-hmm.
It's a medium that you can't. I mean, you can tattoo yourself, but for the most part, you're collaborating with another human, and you're helping people through things, and you're sharing experience, and um, tattooing is a very powerful art form. You're transforming people's bodies, their mindsets. I mean, it's very human.
And you pass on
A
some.
painting, sorry, a painting's it's kind of a singular, isolating process where tattooing is an engaging, very personal, very involved craft.
Mhm.
Like you can't really tattoo in a vacuum. You can tattoo on an island by yourself, but it's there's no art form like it.
Now, you being a teacher as well, and you've taught
Hmm.
all over, is teaching just as important as creating?
Yeah, I mean, I like to share information. I like people,
Hmm.
so I have information to share, and people are interested in. I think a lot of folks are sometimes timid to dip their toes in oil paint, and it's not a scary medium at all. I think tattooing is a lot more daunting, and there's it's a lot more intimidating than putting pigment on canvas. Like with a painting, you can scrape it, you can start over, you cannot show anybody. With a tattoo, the moment you put a mark on the body, it's there, and it's a heavy responsibility if you care, and painting is anybody can do it at any time in their life. It can look like crap. It can look like a nice rendered painting. Like there's no rules to it. Like there's no end to what you can do with it. Tattooing is a static medium.
Hmm.
Like that static's the wrong word. With tattooing, you're there's certain limitations.
Yes.
There's limitations to the person's pain threshold. There's limitations to their desire to push the boundaries on what could be put on their skin. Um, there's limitations in the contrast of pigment color to you know black to flesh.
Hmm.
Like though all those things create boundaries to what can be done on the skin. If somebody has different skin conditions or all those things affect how a tattoo is put on the body. Like there's so many variables. There's a a zillion variables. Paintings, not as much that way.
Hmm. Now, in the course of, let's say, taking on clients, um,
Hmm.
let's talk about those parameters. If people are going to work with you, they have to stay and realize there are certain parameters that we have to work within. And we know that sometimes there are people who don't accept that. Are there times where you
Sure.
have to turn away potential tattooists or potential painting jobs just because it doesn't work in your parameter, or staying
I
true to
do.
Shawn?
Sure. I mean, I'm a commercial artist. I was an illustrator for the last 25 years, so I'm used to doing jobs that aren't personal and things that aren't
Mm,
from my mind or from my hand. And I'm happily and thankfully putting designs on people's bodies that they bring to me that might not be what I'm excited about.
mm-hmm.
But there are limits. There are things that I won't do if I don't think I can do a good job. There's things that stylistically that I'm either not comfortable doing or I have no knowledge of that I won't do. Obviously there's subject matter that if it's, I mean, I don't get asked to do things so extreme that I would turn them away. So,
Mm-hmm.
I know if they did, I would say no. Um, but I try to work with folks.
Okay.
If it's something that I can't do, I try to direct them towards either a coworker or somebody in the world that I know of or have seen their work, and I'm like, maybe this person's a good fit for you.
So after
I mean, how
college,
about you? How about you?
oh
How
me,
about you?
oh yeah, I'm the same. If I'm not into it, it would be a disservice to me, the artist, and the collector to
Yeah,
uh, basically be a part of a lie, wouldn't you say?
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
for sure.
just can't do that. It's best to say, hey, even if it's something I like, because I don't do traditional Americana tattoos, but I know some hot cats that do that stuff, and I won't even try it.
Yeah.
I'll send it to the cats,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there are people who have said, "But dude, I'm going to give you the money." But I'm like, dude, it's not
Sure.
about the
Sure.
money. It's about you getting the
Sure.
tattoo from the right guy.
Sure. 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 I like the challenge of doing things that are outside my comfort zone if I think I can do a decent job.
Hmm.
Like I don't feel like I have a specific style in tattooing, even though the stuff that I draw from me does have my look.
Hmm.
But I do a lot of everything, and I like that. I like the new and learning new things and being able to apply it to my own stuff. You know,
Now, when you first started tattooing, did you start your own shop? Worked at someone else's shop? Uh,
I did an apprenticeship.
you did okay. Yep.
I did, yep, I did an apprenticeship with a painter, tattooist, Mike Davis.
Hmm.
Mike owns a shop in San Francisco called Everlasting Tattoo. Um, Mike showed me lots of different things. How to deal with clients, how to make needles, how to uh, put a tattoo machine together, how to design things for certain parts of the body. And then, everybody in the shop at the time helped me as well. Henry obviously has been one of my biggest influences.
Yeah.
And honestly, like getting tattooed by all different kinds of folks. I have a bodysuit that's a broad range of styles, so I've learned from all of those experiences. I have a Zulu tattoo.
Yeah, you have a lucky chicken foot, I believe.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love it. I love it.
Oh man. So where are you in your journey today? I mean, there's so much happening. I know that's a big umbrella question, but where are, where are you in
Sure.
your journey right now?
I'm in the same place I've been. I've, um, you know. Tattooing maybe 30-40% of the time, painting 70% of the time. I've been teaching a little bit more.
Mhm.
I've been doing workshops and one-on-ones with lots of different folks. I have a nice little balance.
Let's talk
It's been
about
good.
balance. You doing all this teaching, tattooing, painting. What about downtime? What's Shawn's
Downtime.
downtime? You said
Downtime.
downtime with a question
Downtime.
mark.
Oh, I have downtime. I mean,
Is it
we
important for an
after
artist? Because
it is.
artists
It
feel
is.
like, man, I got to do this 24/7. I got to.
Oh no, I do a lot of nothing. I have lots of times where I don't do anything. After dinner, I relax with Kim watching, the news or television or a movie, and I'll take a nap after dinner. And we live in a city where there's things happening every second, so we see a lot of live music. I ride my bicycle. Like I interact with a lot of friends. I definitely in a week I'm doing 2 to 5 different things in a week that have nothing to do with. I mean, they're going to influence my art, but going to an art show, going to a music venue, going to dinner with friends, going for a hike, like all of those things. There's there's constantly stuff happening.
Good.
It's a good. I have a good balance. I have a good balance, and I travel a lot. So you know, travel is fun. There's some work involved with it, but it's also seeing the world and interacting with other people. Like I just like interacting with people,
And I think that
especially
shows in
people.
your work because they're people and the people seem alive. They're not just these stoic, static portraits. They look like almost like you would have had to know them to paint them. And like you said, you do know
Thanks.
most of the people you paint, yes?
You usually, if I don't, I know a little bit about them, and I want to know them.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, after college, you probably jumped right into what we would call commercial art as opposed to fine art. Is that true?
I did a little bit of both. So
Mm.
I graduate. I was 29 when I went to art school for 2 years. Went to a private school art program 2 years before that, and everybody I knew was going to work in video games, and I didn't play video games. I had no aspirations for that. I was a little bit older, and I wanted to be a painter, but I knew that I needed to make a living doing something. And at the time, a lot of art school illustration program teachers were trying to get folks to, pursue editorial illustration and kids book illustration and poster design and all that kind of stuff. So I pursued a career in editorial illustration and did that for many, many years. And then that, you know, expanded into advertising and books and all different kinds of illustration jobs, which I still do today, but nowhere near as I was 10 years ago.
Now, being a teacher, I'm sure you've been in this situation probably of a young person just starting in art school or just got out of art school and there's Shawn Barber. He's already, made it. Maybe I can ask him a question. It's a big
Sure.
question for someone to say what advice you could give me because you could say, "Kid, sit down. This is going to take 20 years." But
Well,
what could you at least say to them to where they're like, "Okay,
I think a lot of, and this is still an issue that I've had in my life in terms of um, longevity,
mm,
um, is to be mindful of art as a business. Be mindful of, I think first and foremost, sorry, I think first and foremost, time management. I think it's really hard. I think a lot of artists have a hard time with time management. I think it's figuring out how to schedule if you need to time to do all the things that need to happen. But I think the real bottom line dilemma that a lot of artists get into is how to financially live a life as an artist who doesn't make a lot of money. And I think it's also knowing that there's times when it's going to be lean and times where it's going to be heavy, where you might have a month where you don't make much money, you might have a month where you make 4 months income. And it's saving for taxes, it's saving for the future, you know, thinking about as we get older, healthcare, like all those things, like they come into play. And if you're not mindful of that, you can get hit over the head pretty quick with a lot of surprises. Um, I think I'm 53 now. I think other things are, I'm somebody who never exercised much. I've been doing that more so lately, and I'm seeing a ton of benefits from that, just in strengthening my body because I've had lots of hand and shoulder issues from excessive work. Understanding the listening to your body and the problems that happen when you overuse certain elements, you know, carpal tunnel, fingers, shoulders, all those things, it's we're all going to age and our bodies are going to diminish, and how do you keep it going in a strong way? It's also mentally, like I think if you're somebody who's with a significant other, having a partner that understands your
Mm.
desire to make things when you're not always making money doing them. Like some people don't understand that desire or that need to be creative when you're spending hundreds of hours on something that might not make you any money. If you're with a partner who doesn't understand that, it's not going to work out. You're going to be fighting with that person constantly. So it's having some mental health awareness of your surroundings and the people you're around that are good and bad influences.
Right on. It's. I know when I was younger, all I thought about was art. But
Yeah.
luckily, at some point, I realized I'm going to have a business head here, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and I agree what you said about you know taking care of relationships as well, because it's easy to want to be the art guy. But if that's all you are, well, then I guess you're missing out on a lot of other stuff in life too. It,
For sure. For
yeah.
sure.
Well,
I mean, we both have great partners who understand our needs and are building us up and not tearing us down. You know.
has there been a time when your partner has built you up when you thought, I don't know if I can keep doing this? Do they come and go, keep going? You got this.
Yeah, for sure, for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
good to have
oh
someone
yeah.
that you can bounce off each other but especially like you said, someone that gets you at this art
Oh yeah,
thing, this need, this have to do thing. Well, Shawn, I
oh
tell
yeah.
you what, this has been amazing. Let's say it's 200 years in the future. Art student
Mhm.
cracks open a book and they're studying ancient art. And then there's the chapter on Shawn Barber. What do you want to leave with them? What do you want them to get out of it?
I think honestly, just to know that I'm part of a tattoo community that is pretty fucking powerful.
Right on.
You know? Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Powerful. That's a good thing. Shawn,
Yep.
can you tell our listeners and viewers where they can check you out online? Because now everybody's going to want to see your work. And, who knows? There could be some artists that want to keep an eye on you to see if you come to their town with
Sure.
a lecture
Sure.
or who knows what.
Um, like recent news, updated news is all through Instagram. Um, my website has a lot of my art on it. That's www.sdbarber.com. For Instagram, it's Shawn D Barber. For tattoos, it's memoirtattoo.com and our Instagram page. I'm easy to find.
I'm sure if they Google your name, it's going to pop up.
Yeah, I'm easy. Yep. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Right on, Shawn. Thanks for catching up, man. It was good seeing you
Yeah,
again.
good to see you.
And
See
just
you.
kind of being able to talk. And
Absolutely.
to all our listeners and viewers, if you got a kick out of this interview with Shawn Barber, please check out some of the other ones. And until next time, be well.